Pennsylvania, ESPN presents Arena Football. Tonight's game is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By your local Little Caesar, where you get 2 great pizzas for 1 low price. And by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. The taste adults have grown to love. They're great. Last night in Arena Football, Matt Stevens with 3 touchdown passes. L.A. wins their 2nd game in a row. They beat New England 27-20. So as we enter the 5th week of the 1988 Arena Football season, only 1 unbeaten team remains. That's Chicago. Pittsburgh at 3-1, Detroit 2-2, L.A. 2-3, and New York and New England with 1 victory apiece. Hi, everybody, and we welcome you to Pittsburgh. I'm Roger Twybo, along with former Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Steve Rabel. Steve, everybody's got a victory now in Arena Football. Are we seeing maybe more parity as the season wears on?
Well, I think one thing we're seeing, Roger, is the teams are in better condition than they've been in the previous weeks. Teams are learning how to play together. There's a lot of young guys who've never played arena football until about a month and a half, 2 months ago down in Orlando. I think you're also seeing some coaches who are maybe new to the league gather some experience out there, and they're learning how to win as well.
Of course, arena football is played with 8 men, and once again, folks, we want to remind you, as we remind ourselves every week, that there are some different rules in this 50-yard game. So let's take a look at the rules here and how the arena football game is played. 8 players, of course, Steve, on a side.
Well, when we talk about conditioning being a big part, this is awfully difficult for players because they have to go both ways, play offense and defense. Fatigue could be a factor. The field dimensions, of course, the field is obviously smaller. We're inside. Be aware that you can play the ball off the nets on a kick, and the goalposts are much more narrow. The kickers are having a heck of a time in this league trying to kick field goals. It's difficult. Only once a quarter for substitutions. Look for the matchups out there because you have to play man-to-man defense. No zone playing of defenses in this game. And also look for a good pass rush because that helps your pass coverage. Finally, drop kicks, although I think the 2 kickers we'll see tonight are not exactly adept at the drop kicking, so probably we'll see the straightaway kicking.
But in the game last night, David Jacobs did make a drop kick, and that is an aspect of the game we're looking forward to seeing. Coming up, the New York Knights and the Pittsburgh Gladiators from the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We'll be back with more of our pregame show in just a moment. The New York Knights and their quarterback, Jim Crocicchia, got off to a great start this year, but Steve Crocicchia has been hurt every week, and we've seen their backup, Stan Iagello, in every game, and I suppose we'll see him again tonight.
Well, he's a pretty fair quarterback, as a matter of fact, and maybe one thing in the favor of the New York Knights by having Iagello in the game is the fact that he did play for Pittsburgh for a time last year. He knows what Joe Herring likes to do on defense. Maybe he's the guy to help pick this team apart.
You know, in some sports, a utility man or a versatile player is, well, maybe he's looked down on a little bit, maybe not quite good enough, but in this league, that's the key, and Al Washington is one of those key guys for New York. He can play a little bit of every position.
Well, he really can. This guy has experience as a quarterback. He's the disaster quarterback for this team if something happens. He's also a defensive back, and in this shot, watch, a fine wide receiver. Al Washington also pretty good on defense. He's one of the top tacklers on this team.
And, of course, New York has got some players back. They've had some injuries, and they're going to have some more depth at receiver.
Well, New York loves to put the ball in the air. They like to go deep 2 out of 3 plays. And with their receivers back, Best and Hunter are both off the injured list. That should help Crocicchia immensely in getting that ball downfield.
Big story this week for the Pittsburgh Gladiators is the return of Russell Hairston. This will be his first game tonight of the 1988 season. He was so impressive last year in the abbreviated season of arena football. He was signed by the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, this guy was the top player in the league last year. He's got a lot of height, great speed, and body control. He can really play this game of arena football. I'm kind of surprised, actually, he didn't want to stick around down in Atlanta, but he feels like this is his home, arena football.
He loves it. Defensively, now the New York Knights lead the league, but sometimes statistics are misleading. That's a little bit misleading. The Pittsburgh Gladiators have an awesome rush. 18 sacks so far this year, and they've got one man. You could call him the sack man of arena ball.
And he's probably the smallest lineman in all the AFL. His name is Fred Walls. They list him at 215. If he's a pound over 208, I'll eat my hat. But this guy is so quick off the ball, and he has learned, as a matter of fact, how to get around defensive ends with strength as well. But here, number 54 in the green jersey, watch him simply outrunning the defensive end or the offensive tackle, making a play from his defensive end spot.
This will be an interesting game tonight because the Pittsburgh Gladiators score a lot of points. They scored 82 earlier this year, but they also give up a lot, as they did last week, 66. Coming up next here from the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, it'll be the New York Knights against the Pittsburgh Gladiators. Knights officials, Verl Sorgan, the referee, Roger McMinn, the linesman, Bob Mantooth, the side judge, Tom Myers is the field judge, and Steve, they've got their hands full. This is a tough game to officiate. And also there's a zone judge who sits upstairs here and keeps an eye on things from above the field.
Well, one thing we can say about the officiating is they have tried to keep it going both ways as much as possible, calling it on both sides. And the other thing that we have seen is I think the players are getting more used to some of the rule changes, as we see Joe Herring, who actually helped develop some of these rules with the league. Joe, an experienced coach in this league, as he has been throughout the USFL, a fine defensive coach, and that's what's gotten him to this point a 3-1 record with Pittsburgh.
And there's Jim Valek, the head coach for the New York Knights, looking up above at the sky, and you can remember, I say the sky, the ceiling. You can remember last week if you're with us from New England, as we have the coin toss.
There it is, here. All right, you've won the right to kick, receive, defend the goal.
New York had the right to kick, receive, or defend a goal, and they will receive. But what I was mentioning was that last week we saw in New England a rather low ceiling, low scoreboard, and the football on several occasions became caught up in the scoreboard, some wires hanging down. The ceiling here much higher in the Civic Arena, the scoreboard much higher, but there are some wires dangling down. If a guy can kick it that high, we've got a late-breaking story here.
Well, and again, that's just one of the things that you have to deal with in arena football, and that's one of the things you look for in a kicker. How much control does that kicker have? Can he get the ball deep, perhaps on a line drive, and into those nets? Because, as we said, some of the most exciting plays in arena football is playing that ball off the net.
Something new and different seems to happen every week in arena football, and we'll see what it is this week. But it's fun, it's entertaining, as Rusty Fricky, who, if you were with us a couple of weeks ago here in Pittsburgh, had a great game. He only made 1 of 3 field goals, but folks, in this kind of football, 33% on field goals is not bad. 6 to 7 extra points, but last week had a tough game in L.A. As you take a look at the receivers back for the New York Knights, 84 is Stan Hunter, and 21 is Edwin Lovelady. But he had a tough game last week.
Well, he did, and of course, if you can kick in this game, if you can kick 25% of even your point after touchdowns, you're doing pretty well. And Rusty Fricky, actually, as you say, had an off week last week, but he looks to come back. He's at home. He's got the hometown crowd cheering for him tonight.
And we're underway from Pittsburgh. Edwin Lovelady, about 6 yards deep, and he's got some room. And Fricky makes the tackle. I got to tell you, the kickers have got some guts in this league. We've seen them make quite a few tackles. New York offensively shapes up like this. Krachicki is the quarterback. Derek Hughes, a big running back from Michigan State. Alec Gibson, the tight end. Wide receivers, Lovelady. Best is the flanker. He's back this week, as is Hunter, the wide receiver. The center is Chris Jones, and Pete Walters is the offensive lineman for the New York Knights with good field position. 1st and 10 from just across midfield. Let's call it the 24-yard line. Krachicki, and he gets his receiver. Number 25 for the New York Knights is Greg Best. He is from Kansas State University, and he's been out with injuries the past couple of games, so that's a good way to get him right back in the flow of things. As we take a look at the defense for the Pittsburgh Gladiators, Ernest Adams, Dave Opfar, Craig Wall. We'll keep an eye on 54 for Rick Shepis just in this week, 89. Federico's 45, Rock Richmond 29, and he is one of the best defensive players in arena ball. Brian Moran and Julius Dawkins. As a matter of fact, Richmond leads the league in tackles, and he is a very, very good, tough player. Now, the shotgun for the New York Knights, the only team to utilize in the league, and great catch by Lovelady and a touchdown. Edwin Lovelady for the New York Knights hauls in the pass from Krachicki, and for Krachicki, a touchdown pass number 14 on the season, and for Edwin Lovelady, his first touchdown of the year.
Jim Krachicki having lots of time standing back there in the pocket, and just a nice one-handed stab by Edwin Lovelady.
6th touchdown reception of the year for Lovelady.
Krachicki not getting a lot of time to throw last week against New England. We'll see how that shapes up.
Prattville, the point after, and he makes it. So the New York Knights, who've had trouble scoring points the last 2 games, get on the board in a hurry here. It took them less than 2 minutes, and they lead Pittsburgh 7-0. Prattville will kick it off. He's from the University of San Diego. Doesn't have the strongest leg in the league. As a matter of fact, he has not been able to reach the other net on some of his kickoff and many of his field goal attempts. Let's see what happens here tonight. Nice high kick there. And just on the end line, so a good job by Prattville that time. And they'll bring the football out to the 5-yard line for the Pittsburgh Gladiators, who will set up offensively this way. Mike Hohensee, the quarterback, Craig Federico, the running back, Ernest Adams is the tight end, Julius Dawkins, the wide receiver, and he's a good one with 9 touchdown catches. Brian Moran, the flanker, Rick Shepis is 89, Dave Opfar, the center, and Craig Walls, the offensive line. And, of course, in arena football, there is another 8 players who will be shuttled in and out as Pittsburgh has it 1st and 10. Hohensee, and he is grabbed right at the 1-yard line. So New York, Steve, who had 6 sacks last week, or was sacked 6 times last week by New England, given Pittsburgh a little of the sack medicine.
Well, and Pete Walters here, number 66 in the white at the bottom of your screen, just keeps on fighting. This guy's a big weightlifter type of guy, and he just fights right through Ernie Adams to get himself in position back there to make the sack.
Walters, Jones, and Gibson up front. Hughes, Lovelady, and Hunter. Elbert Gray, the defensive specialist, and Greg Best, the safety, 25. 2nd and 13 now as Shepis goes in motion. He's number 89. Hohensee. And one of the amazing statistics so far in this young season is that Mike Hohensee has not thrown an interception. And I don't care what kind of football you play, that's impressive.
He very nearly threw one that time. It was about a step behind his receiver, and Elbert Gray, the defensive specialist for the New York Knights, stepped in there, and had he been able to hang on to that, he had nothing but green in front of him for about 15, 18 yards, and he'd have scored.
Hohensee doesn't have the greatest size for a quarterback as far as speed goes, but, you know, he just kind of wins everywhere he goes. Doesn't make many mistakes, and that pass just off the fingertips of Shepis, and that brings up a 4th down situation. And this is one of the situations, I think, Steve, that we're finding more and more in arena football. There is no punting, folks, if you haven't been with us before. Consequently, you attempt a field goal attempt. In this case, for Rusty Fricky, he's going to put the end zone's 8 yards deep. It's going to be about 5 yards deep in the end zone, so it's going to be 55 and 8, 63 yards on the field goal attempt. But actually what they're really trying to do is not necessarily get that field goal, but get good field position.
Just get the ball out of their own end, and then hope they've got guys that can get downfield and cover.
It's blocked right at the line of scrimmage and blocked back into the end zone. That's a safety.
So says Burl Sorgan. We're going to have to take a look at the replay to see who got their hand up. But New York has a couple of pretty good-sized linemen.
That's the 3rd safety this year for the New York Knights.
Take a look in the middle of the screen. 50 would be Chris Jones, playing nose tackle tonight. Moved in from his defensive end position. Tough kid, 6'3", 260 out of Delaware State. Gets the hand up and gets a couple of more points on the board for New York.
Well, New York 2 weeks ago scored 1 touchdown, that with less than 2 minutes to go in their game. Last week, they scored 2 touchdowns and 13 points. They're doing pretty good so far in this game with just less than 4 minutes gone.
You know, New York's problem has been, up to this point during the season, that they have not been able to score when they've gotten down in the really tough going inside the 5, 6, 7, 8 yard line. It seems when they're out in the field, they can move the ball with anybody, and as we talked about at the top of the show, they sure do love to go deep.
Well, Jim Valek said they actually had their best week of practice. They had 2 complete teams to work against each other. And look at this catch here. Now, that can be played off the net. That particular kick can be played off the net, but unfortunately, the defensive back couldn't make the catch because it went off the soft part of the netting right in the middle, so it'll be brought out to the 5-yard line. And Joe Herring, Pittsburgh Gladiators coach, finds himself in an early hole. The New York Knights have a 9-0 lead. Gladiators defense allowed 347 points last week, 347 yards passing, rather, 66 points in last week's loss to L.A. Steve, they do make some big plays, an awful lot of big plays, but they give up a lot of big plays, too.
Well, and you try to figure out what that is. They've got, as we've talked about, a lot of defensive-oriented players. They've also had some people banged up. They've got 4 starters from the opening game of the season against Detroit that are not even playing because of injury.
Best is in motion, and a flag goes down. Korchicki is sacked in the end zone, but that penalty is going to be against Pittsburgh. It looked like Walls was the guy that jumped offside. Jim Valek told us earlier today his offensive philosophy is 1st down, touchdown, 2nd down, touchdown, 3rd down, 1st down.
You got to slow that down, folks, and listen to exactly what he's saying there, every word, before you can understand it.
Still 1st down.
Jim Valek, who for, I guess, the last 10 years before taking this job was general manager with the New Jersey Generals, the USFL, worked in the front office of the New England Patriots.
Had a good eye for talent, and so he's trying to acquire some for this team.
Trochicchia still on his feet now. They blow it dead. Now they blow it dead. Trochicchia goes ahead and throws it. But they said that he was within the grasp, if you will. And Trochicchia having a few words with the official. 85, Ernest Adams was the man that had a hold of him.
Jim Trochicchia is saying, hey, he never brought me down. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm strong. Give me a chance to fight my way out of it. Well, that rule is in there, so guys like Jim Trochicchia don't get killed back there when they're being stood up by one defensive player. Take a look at Ernest Adams coming in from the right side of your screen. Now, he's got Trochicchia. He's got him. He's got him. Oh, well, sort of. He's got him by the shoe. Jim able to squirm free nonetheless. The official was right there, Earl Sorgan.
Well, we've had 2 safeties so far tonight, Steve, in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Well, and that's one of the problems, I think, when you have a passing game like New York's, and they like to go deep almost every play. When you're up against your own end zone, you've got to go to that short game and get yourself some working room so you can allow your quarterback time to stand back there and throw.
Prattville from his goal line. That's going to be off the net. They've got to have 5 yards room so that they can receive it. And the ball is down in the end zone, so the Pittsburgh Gladiators will have it. And Prattville's done a credible job so far tonight with his kickoffs, as Pittsburgh will have it 1st and 10 from their 5-yard line. And Rick Cuccinelli is the defensive coordinator. Is he still fasting? Did you hear he was...
Yeah, he is, as a matter of fact. Rick is kind of an emotional guy. He's the guy that these players look up to for, Jim Valek is kind of a quiet coach. Cuccinelli's just the opposite. He's on a bit of a fast right now until his team wins. He's just going to drink fluid
for 2 weeks, right?
Something like that, yeah.
ONC got a man open. That's Shepard. And he's drilled out of bounds at the 16-yard line. Al Washington was the man that made the hit. But what about number 89, Rick Shepard from Youngstown State, not too far from here?
Well, he's replacing Rob Miner, who was one of the keys to this Pittsburgh offense. But they like Shepard. Has good hands, pretty good moves. He's not the fastest player in the world. But Herring was given Shepard's name through the personnel department of the Steelers. They thought enough of him to say, hey, this kid's a pretty good athlete. You ought to talk to him.
That's a first down for Pittsburgh. Hohensie, a little problem with the snap. Gets it back under control. Deep and just off the hands of number 46, Julius Dawkins, who is looking for his 24th reception of the year and his 7th touchdown catch. That would have been it. Averages 16.2 yards a reception, Steve. That's the 2nd most in the league.
Julius didn't even start the opening game of the year against Detroit, but he has stepped in and come on to be the top receiver, and that one was a catch. That should have been 6 points by Julius. He'll be the first to admit it. But again, when you have to look back over your shoulder and literally back over your own head, it's awfully difficult to try to find that ball and locate it. There's not a lot of guys that make that catch on a consistent basis.
You didn't have to look back for many footballs. You were always looking.
I was always blocking. That's why.
2nd down and 10. Hohensie with a lot of pressure, and he flips it underhanded, but they're going to say that he was down. And back there for the New York Knights, if you saw him last week, he does a mean dance after he makes a sack, and that's Quentin Knight, 65.
Quentin Knight, number 65, in the white New York jerseys, again getting in there. This guy, he lets his emotions get carried away. He got into a couple of shoving matches last week with New England, but he's a comer. He's moving all the time up there on that defensive front.
That's the 5th sack for Knight. He also had some help in there, too. It looked like 64 for the New York Knights. Walter Houseman got a hand in there. So it's 3rd down and 19 now. Hohensie had some time. Shepard is interfered with. The flag goes down immediately. Shepard and Dawkins were both down in that middle area, Steve. Can you tell which guy? It looked like both of them got hit pretty good, but the ball was intended.
Actually, they both crossed each other. It looked like it almost could have been a pick, but instead it's going to go against New York. Let's see.
34 was the man back there on the coverage for the New York Knights. That was Vince Corville, who was an offensive player who's made himself into pretty good defensive player.
Holding, number 34, 1st down.
Well, that's one of the signs of a good defensive player. If you can hold and not get called for it, then you really come a long way. And Vince Corvo, as you said, a fine offensive player and is really coming into his own defensively.
So on the interference call, they moved the ball up 5 yards. As you can tell, the clock runs continuously. 7:15 now. It stops in the final minute of the half and final minute of the game. Dawkins once again had it in his grasp, and he loses it. The man defending was Elbert Gray, the defensive specialist.
And Elbert Gray is going to draw probably the toughest assignment of the night, and in this case, in the offensive setup of Pittsburgh, it's going to be Julius Dawkins. Again, Hohensee just laying it out there. Another excellent pass. Julius trying to fight through the defender to get over there. Got it in his hand. Couldn't hang on to it. Should have had it.
Now, after you've dropped 2 like that, Steve, what's your excuse as a receiver going back to the quarterback?
Well, if that had happened to me when I was playing, I'd have gone back and said, hey, don't give up on me. I mean, you know, the guy was playing me tough. Yeah, I admit it, I should have had it, but let's keep going to the well.
Shepis is the motion man. 2nd and 10. Well, lots of pressure. Hohensee scrambling, and he's going to run with it. I want to tell you what, folks, he got a great block downfield. Number 54, Craig Walls, and you talk about an all-around football player, and this is what arena football is all about. We talked about him at the top, 54, being a great pass rusher. Watch his blocking here on number 60. And I'll tell you what, as a former part-time offensive, you can appreciate that blocking right there.
Well, look at the feet. He keeps his feet moving. For those of you out there that want to ever learn how to block, you stay in contact with the defensive player and you keep your feet moving and you take him whichever way he wants to go. And then a guy like Hohensee, who's smart enough to see how the block is working, just keeps following it right up the sidelines. Great play by both those guys.
Grandy is the man on roller skates. And Hohensee is sacked, and there he is again, and watch the dance, Quentin Knight. And for Knight now, that's his 6th sack on the year. Well, he didn't do the dance that time.
He may be getting a little bit tired. You know, it takes a lot of energy to get in there and rush that passer time after time after time. In fact, oftentimes what you'll see is the guy then when they have to turn around and go offense, play the offensive line fight, maybe take a little bit of a break, catch their breath, because there's a lot of work involved in getting around somebody, keeping your feet, fighting your way to the quarterback, and bringing him down.
One other word on that block, Grandy weighs over 300 pounds. That gives you an idea of the strength of Walls to push him literally 15 yards back downfield.
Sure, remember, we're talking Walls is only a shade over 200 pounds for him.
2nd down and 19. Shepis in motion again. Less than 5 minutes to go, first quarter. Hohensee has got his man, and that's Dawkins. I'll tell you, Steve, he made a nice move. He gave a little fake to the outside and took it back inside.
And again, Dawkins goes back to the huddle and he says, look, Mike, don't give up on me. I know I can get open. You know I can catch the ball. Let's go back to it again. This time, because the defensive backs have seen him go deep 2 or 3 times in a row, he hooks up and look at that. He's got 3 or 4 yards on the nearest defender.
How do you like Hohensee's release? I think he's got a nice, quick, short release.
He does, and he's obviously shown that he's got feet quick enough to stand back there and avoid the rush when he's given at least a modicum of time to get away from it.
3rd down and 6. Just over 4 minutes to go. Ball at the 23-yard line. Everybody's set to the right side now. And that's the way Hohensee rolls. And he is nearly intercepted for the first time this year. The intended receiver was number 27, Dan Burmeister, and Elbert Gray was one of the players back there, and he's been a real, I mean, that's why he is the defensive specialist. He's been everywhere.
We talked about Elbert Gray last week, coming in playing his first game last week after a hamstring injury kept him out of action since training camp. But they like him in New York. He's got, again, those defensive instincts to know where that ball is and to get to it. And even though he's very nearly been beaten a couple of times by Julius Dawkins tonight, defensive players have got to have a lot of confidence in themselves.
And that field goal attempt by Fricky is blocked, picked up at the 5-yard line, and it's taken back to the 10, number 29, 25 best for the New York Knights. But still, did its job even though it was blocked, and New York will have it. 1st and 10 from the 10 when we return to Pittsburgh. New York 9, Pittsburgh 2. Unusual score, unusual game so far. Fricky, 3 of 15 on field goal attempts until this particular attempt. Never really got that up in the air.
never really had much of a chance. Tough to see who the player was coming through on that, but the player just was not blocked. The New York rusher.
I guess it was Alec Gibson. It looked like 82, and Best brings it back. So now a change defensively. Hairston and the other unit, we'll call him the other unit because there's really not a first or second string, has checked in for the Gladiators. Krochickia to Lovelady. And Rock Richmond, number 29, the man who made the tackle. As I mentioned, Richmond, the leading tackler in the league, 22 tackles coming into the game, also 4 interceptions. And let's take a look at a veteran player from the NFL and the USFL, Ogren.
Number 68, Pat Ogren in the green jersey right here. You see him fighting his way back to the quarterback. Big kid, 6'4", 260 out of Wyoming. You said an experienced player. Guy owns a Super Bowl ring from the Washington Redskins back in '82. Played for several years in the NFL. Now he's here plying his trade in the AFL. And was with the Denver Gold of the USFL. That's the Joe Herring connection. Krochickia and off the fingers of Edwin Lovelady. And we've got a player down the field at the 7-yard line. It looks like Alec Gibson, 82. is down on the field, but the man working the defense was Russell Hairston, and that's the first time he's been involved in a play, but Gibson is the player down for New York. Timeout on the field with 2:08 left to go first quarter, and the New York Knights with a 9-2 lead over the Pittsburgh Gladiators. Take a look now at Pat Ogren, number 68 in the green of Pittsburgh, fighting around 82 Alec Gibson. You see Gibson's got a hand on Ogren's jersey, just kind of pulling him along. Ogren just throws him down, and at some point there the ankle gave way. You can see Alec Gibson going for the ankle. He's now off the field, helped off by the trainers. We've talked to the coaches from, well, we've done every game, every team except Detroit, and every coach feels that injuries in this particular game can be more devastating than in any other particular game because you've only got 18 players. This is a different type of football game. And you lose 1 or 2 players, and you've got a real problem. Sure, you got to bring somebody in from the outside who perhaps has never played this game before. Best is in motion. Krochickia with plenty of time. Pump fake once. He's got a man. Touchdown! New York Knights 84 is Stan Hunter, who just came back after being injured the past couple of weeks. So Krochickia seems to be on track as he was the first couple of games of the year. And let's take a look at the touchdown pass. Well, I'll tell you what, if you could see to just the left corner of your screen and watch Mark Grandy throw a defender out of the way so that Krochickia had the time to make that pass to Hunter. Stan Hunter, who had a punctured lung and a broken rib, is back out here playing football. All you need is 1 foot in arena football, and Hunter got that foot down. As you mentioned, a great addition coming back to this team. Both Hunter and Best back in the receiving corps. Prattville to attempt the point after, and he's good. He's 2 of 2. So he's had a good night so far kicking, and the New York Knights are leading 16-2 over the Pittsburgh Gladiators. And let's take another look at the touchdown pass. Stan Hunter, 6'2", good size. He's from Bowling Green. Krochickia again avoiding the draft and then gets smacked by Ogren as he releases the ball. But there's Hunter. Good concentration, hands around the ball, and then he runs right into our cameraman almost. And the man beaten was Burmeister as Gibson is having some ice put on his ankle. Looked like he might have just hyperextended the foot. It looked like he came down on his heel and then maybe caught the turf a little bit. Now and again, he was the one hanging on to Ogren, holding him. Kickoff by Prattville, and once again, he has been just perfect. All right, now, we mentioned this a couple of seconds ago on the touchdown. Watch Pat Ogren at the bottom of your screen right there, number 68, again, in the green. And take a look at the big guy, Mark Grandy. This is the touchdown play. 290-pounder out of Louisville. Grab him, throw him down. And look at who told us in the meeting this morning that the holding was getting out of control? Jim Valek, the New York Knights coach. He says, I can't believe the holding that's going on. So what does he do? Well, he doesn't do it, but his players are doing it, right? Maybe somebody has taught them well. I mean, if you can get away with it, you know that, offensive lineman. But sometimes if you're going to teach it, you say keep your hands inside the structure there, the form of the defender. No fooling around for Mark Grandy. Less than a minute to go, first quarter. And
The intended receiver was Russell Hairston. Folks, Hairston was signed to a contract by the Atlanta Falcons and went down to their minicamp and was released. The Minnesota Vikings then contacted Hairston's representative and said, gee, we'd like to sign him. And they said, no, he really wants to play arena football. That's what he likes, and that's where he's at. Earl Sorgen with the personal foul call against the New York Knights. And the Knights made a lot of mistakes like that last week against New England.
Well, they got carried away. They got themselves into some pushing matches. One of their players threw a football at one of the other players from New England.
44, first down.
So the personal foul is going to go against Derek Hughes.
I was talking to Commissioner Jim Foster today. They've put new latches on all the doors, so you'll never see a player go through a door again once that door has been barred. As Hohensee finds Burmeister, and he's down at the 15-yard line. Pittsburgh leads arena football, and Mike Hohensee in particular, in pass completions. They're hitting on better than 57% of their passes. That is tops in the league, and obviously Hohensee with no interceptions. The other quarterback has thrown just one. So their passing game has been very, very efficient as we come to the end of the first quarter.
Well, they also have they have an excellent passing scheme in the quick passing game, a la Mouse Davis, for instance, from the old USFL days.
End of the first quarter, New York with a surprising 16-2 lead over Pittsburgh.
Presenting the G-Shock watch from Casio. The water-resistant sports watch that's ready for action. With a built-in shock absorber. It's tough. So tough, this G-Shock can take a slap in the face and not even flinch. The Casio G-Shock. One tough watch to beat. The G-Shock is only one of Casio's unbeatable high-tech products.
When you check your bag on some airlines, do you ever wonder what's going to happen to it?
What's this?
It's our all-new reinforcement tape, our combo. Made from our specially developed material, virtually break-proof. There's no way this bag will accidentally pop open, guaranteed.
On Alaska Airlines, we try hard to treat baggage with as much care as we treat passengers, because we want to see you and your baggage again.
Live from Las Vegas, Knockout Night, featuring Thomas Hearns against Iran Barkley for the WBC Middleweight Championship. Knockout, a pay-per-view event Monday, June 6th. Call your cable operator and order today.
No sport has changed more over the past few years than tennis. It's more colorful, competitive, and controversial than ever. Tennis Magazine delivers all the action. The conflicts, the stars, the big matches, the new equipment, and the tips that can improve your game. Every month you'll meet today's and tomorrow's tennis greats on the court and off. And you'll get full coverage of the top matches. Where, when, and who'll be playing. Tennis brings you the newest ideas and equipment. Rackets, stringing, shoes, what works and what doesn't. Masters of the game like Connors, Ashe, and Traber take you from baseline basics to advanced court strategy. You'll find the best spots for tennis vacations, tennis camps for the kids. Tennis Magazine. In my book, seated #1. Here's how to order.
Get a year of tennis for only $9.97, less than half the newsstand price. Call 800-372-3000. You'll also get our free booklet with tips to improve your game. Call 800-372-3000.
Roger Twyba, Steve Rabel back with you in Pittsburgh with the New York Knights, who have had trouble scoring points the last 2 weeks. Scored 16 here in the first quarter, and they have a 16-2 lead. That's Mike Hohensee. Pittsburgh Gladiators with it. 2nd and 7. Quick pass out to the side and complete, but just for a couple of yards. Moran is the man making the reception. This is how it happened in the first quarter. Lovelady, a 14-yard touchdown pass in the second play from Krochickia. The New York blocked a kick to safety, their third safety of the year. Pittsburgh got an Adams sack for a safety, then it was 9-2, and then Hunter, a 28-yard touchdown pass from Krochickia. 16-2, that's the scoring in the first quarter. Remember, in the second quarter, with 1 minute left to go in the half, the clock will stop on incomplete passes and out-of-bounds plays. Other than that, it will run continuously. And we're just underway, 3rd and 5 now, second quarter from the Civic Arena. And Hohensee is brought down, and Quentin Knight is the man again. That's his 3rd sack tonight. And he has been the defensive force so far for the New York Knights.
I got to believe that Jim Valek, after last week, talked to Quentin Knight and said, Quentin, if you can just keep your head about you and not get so excited that you want to take a poke at somebody, as you did a couple of times last week, man, you can really make some plays in this game.
Call coming down from upstairs. There's a call from upstairs. So a zone violation on the New York Knights.
We haven't seen many of those called lately. Joe Herring probably, perhaps prompting the officials to maybe look a little more closely at what New York is doing.
Otfar is limping off for the Pittsburgh Gladiators. Dave Otfar, one of the bigger players for Joe Herring, 6'4", 265. He's out of Penn State. He's got a world championship ring from the USFL.
Yes, he does. He's also got a national championship trophy from the Nittany Lions.
So it's a first down and 10 from the 23-yard line. Hohensee going deep. Dawkins, and 3 times Dawkins has had an excellent chance to catch the football, but let's give some credit to Elbert Gray right there, too, because he was a definite factor in the reason Dawkins didn't catch that one.
Well, all 3 times that Dawkins has been going deep, it's been Gray who's drawn the assignment. Dawkins now slowly limping back to the sidelines, but let's take a look at the play from the reverse angle. Here's Hohensee. Lots of time, steps up and throws it, and this is going to fall just about on the money again. But there you see Elbert Gray getting a little bit higher, just ticking that ball. Just tick that ball a little bit, knocks it away just so that it slips through the hands of Julius Dawkins, and now Julius comes off the field. He hits the sidelines for a break.
And Russell Hairston has checked into the game. He's the receiver split to the bottom of your screen. Shepis the motion man on 2nd and 10. Hohensee got rid of it, and there is another pass drop. That was Brian Moran that time. So Hohensee's had at least 4 to be sure, 5 passes that were people just wide open that have been dropped.
And Brian Moran is a good football player, too. This kid, smart, pretty good hands, hard worker, and he knows it. He's just saying, oh, Mom, I tried to run before I had the ball in my hand.
So the Pittsburgh Gladiators, who racked up points at a very proficient rate so far this year, are having some problems tonight against the New York Knights. 3rd and 10. That was a screen pass. Well, I'll tell you what, we haven't seen that, Steve, and that was working to perfection. Federico was the man 45 who made the reception, and those 3 defensive linemen came blowing in there. They had no clue.
Well, you also had the Jill blitzing that time. You can see number 32 breaking free inside for New York as well, as Johnny Shepard comes blasting in there. The ball just able to be caught by Federico. Another good athlete on this Pittsburgh squad.
So it's 4th and 5, and Rusty Fricky will check in. Call it a 36-yard field goal. Good snap, good hold, and a great kick. Maybe Fricky just likes to be on television.
It also helps that he gets some protection that time as well.
So Pittsburgh with a field goal and a safety, and they trail 16-5. Roger Twyville and Steve Rabel back with you in Pittsburgh, where the Gladiators have not scored a touchdown tonight, but they've got 5 points on the board. They're down by 11 with 11:35 to go. First half, and Fricky will kick it off from his goal line. And that's off the net. That's a live ball, still on the ground. And finally, the Knights fall on it on the 2-yard line, and that's the benefit, Steve, of having a kicker that can get it deep and off that net.
Well, and you notice one of the New York Knight players actually turned his back at about the goal line just in case that ball comes ricocheting off the metal support of the net. He's in position to knock that ball down before it gets out into the field of play. That time, 3 guys kind of stood around and tried to pick it up rather than just falling on it.
There's a look at what the 2 quarterbacks have done so far tonight. Kuchicki will open up this series from the 2-yard line out of the shotgun. Corville's the motion man. And the New York Knights with the completion across the 10 down to the 14-yard line. Bennett, number 46, the receiver there. And Shepis, one of the defensive men over there. Also, number 23, Russell Hairston. But the shotgun we haven't seen from any other team.
Well, it gives Kuchicki a little extra time back there to find his receivers. He's not the quickest of foot, a quarterback in this league, although he is quick enough to be able to get himself out of trouble when he has to. There's Lewis Bennett, just newly signed out of Florida A&M to this New York Knight football team.
The New York Knights coming into this game with the fewest first downs of any Arena Football League team. And Bennett once again with the reception. That's right at midfield. The tackle made by Rock Richmond. Now, let's tell you right now that there is some familiarity between Bennett and Krzyzewski. They were both on the New York Giants replacement team. As a matter of fact, Krzyzewski found this guy several times for touchdowns.
And just a couple of weeks ago, when Jim Ballack was looking for some defensive back receivers' help, he called his old buddy, Bill Parcells, with the New York Giants, and said, "What do you think about Lewis Bennett?" And he said, "I think he's a pretty good football player. You ought to take a look at him." Lewis Bennett's now out here playing.
Okpar, by the way, we're told, is re-injured a pulled groin and may not be back. Gibson also doubtful for the rest of the game with an ankle sprain. 1st and 10. And there was a battle for that football. Bennett and Hairston going for it. And a good job by Russell Hairston. He's got perfect size for this game for a receiver defensive back.
Well, we haven't said too much about Hairston, and probably rightly so. I don't think anybody wants to put a lot of pressure on him as far as the Pittsburgh coaching staff is concerned. He's just back out here. It's his first game back. But this guy, as you said, is a real physical specimen. And Hairston at 6'5", the kind of height, they list him at 6'3", but 6'5" is probably a little closer to what he plays at. Good speed, quickness. This was the guy who was the top player of the year last year, player of the year in the AFL.
Had 6 touchdown receptions in one game. Krzyzewski flags is down. The flag is thrown down at about the 22-yard line. And that's usually in the area where somebody might be holding. Pass was incomplete.
After what we've seen on a couple of replays tonight, it wouldn't be a total surprise if somebody were called for holding. And that's
I know that flag.
Talking it over with Craig Walls as Krzyzewski goes and talks to his offensive coordinator.
Penalty declined. 3rd down.
You know, the New York Knights with 16 points tonight have gotten absolutely nothing out of their kicking game coming into this game. They've had no field goals and just a couple of extra points. And that's been a real problem for them. And the more I see this game, Steve, the more I see how important the kicking game really is going to be.
And I think kickers, just like coaches, just like receiver defensive backs, have to grow into this game. It's not something you can step in and pick up overnight.
Not a lot of 3rd down conversions. Krzyzewski with a lot of pressure, spins away, and they're going to say he was down. He shoveled the pass to Shepard. But once again, Krzyzewski was in the grass, and the man who had a handle on him was number 85 for the Pittsburgh Gladiators, and that was Ernest Adams, 6'3", 240 from Illinois.
You know, it's almost too bad that he's called down. After he works this hard, he's now, look at that, got him around the shoe top. He is in the grass, but it sure was a great job by Krzyzewski in fighting like crazy to try to get that ball away.
Well, he'd been sacked 13 times coming into this game, so he knows what it feels like to be on his back. He had a tough game last week against New England. They got to him 6 times. So Crowderville now will attempt the field goal. Krzyzewski will put it down at the 9. So make it a 49-yarder, and it's blocked. Walls appeared to be the man to get in there. It goes out at the 14-yard line. And look at Joe Herring, the emotional coach, and he was a defensive coach in his days in the USFL.
They love him up here in Pittsburgh. He gets the fans and his team fired up.
This is Steve, we've seen Walls do a great job defensively, offensively, now special teams.
There he is, number 54. He either runs through people, over them, or just simply outquicks them. Grant Walls on the sideline taking a little break.
We mentioned at the top the New York Knights, the best defensive team in arena football, allowing just 192 yards a game. But this is the problem that they've had. They've made a lot of mistakes early this year. For a team now like Pittsburgh gets good field position at the 15, they can punch it across. And that's why that stat is a bit misleading.
Sure, your stats look pretty good when you only have to go about 8 or 9 yards to score a touchdown against the team. And right now, with the ball on the 15, that's all Pittsburgh has facing them.
Mike Powell is the running back. Hohensee on 1st down. Right there, the man, Russell Hairston. Well, I'm sure he's glad to be here.
Oh, I'm sure he is. Joe Herring told us this morning, he says, we're just going to kind of take it easy here on Russell and I. We're going to see what he's made of if he's ready to come back and play. Hey, this guy loves this game, and he's just built perfectly for this game. Good one-on-one route runner, and as we said, good hands. He goes up and gets that ball.
And he beat Albert Gray that time.
That's right. Pretty good defensive back.
Fricky, now high snap. Hohensee has got some time. He's going to throw it, and it's caught. The Pittsburgh Gladiators with a 2-point conversion. Mike Powell, and that's simply offense by accident, folks.
Sometimes you got to have a little bit of good luck. Finally, the Pittsburgh fans have something to swing their towels about. There's a high snap. Hohensee did a great job just getting that ball out of the air. Now watch him scramble around.
Fricky threw him a block.
Gray has his hands on it. Look at Powell. Tip drill for the 2-point conversion.
So the Pittsburgh Gladiators right back in it. They trail by 3, 16-13. Roger Twyvell, Steve Rabel, and just what we talked about, Steve, the turnover really hurts the New York Knights. And look at this kick by Fricky. Off the post, and Edwin Lovelady was able to catch it and bring it outside the 5 to the, well, let's call it the 10-yard line. And that's where Krochikia and the New York Knights will have it. First and 10 with 6:20 and the clock running, and just a 3-point ball game now.
Now let's see if New York wants to try to control things a little bit, slow it down, or if they're going to stick to what they do best, and that's running those deep patterns and trying to put points on the board one after the other.
Touchdown, touchdown, first down. That's it. Best, the intended receiver. Burmeister, one of the men over there covering, and also for the Pittsburgh Gladiators, number 29, Rock Richmond. And we'd like to send our best out to Art Rooney, the venerable owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was in the hospital here yesterday, had some minor surgery, and we hope he's resting comfortably and doing well at home.
Tell you what, when folks around any professional football league talk about great people, Art Rooney comes to mind, and he really is a great, great man, and the folks here in Pittsburgh certainly love him.
They said you knew he was doing all right because the first thing he asked for was a cigar when he got out.
That's what he did. Just play. All right, penalty marked off against New York.
Number 60 did not report as a tight end. 3 yards, repeat first down.
And that's Mark Grandy, the big guy out of Louisville.
That happened a couple times last week, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think, Grandy at 290, obviously he's been a lineman all his life, probably forgets from time to time that he has to report when he's an eligible receiver, and that's one of the points of this game. You can be a receiver up on that line.
See the penalties, 5 for 21 for New York. That's the thing that's troubled them all year. And movement on the offensive line. The pass is completed. Hunter makes the reception. It gets down to the 25. But there was movement on the offensive line. It was 65, Quentin Knight.
Quentin Knight, who was a defensive player in college at Cal State Fuller.
They didn't throw a flag. Joe Herring was out there, and he can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Take a look at the bottom of your screen right there. All right, now that to me is illegal procedure all the way right there.
Well, a big break for the New York Knights. First and 10 from the 24. Best the motion man, and can turn up to the line of scrimmage before the snap. Now a penalty marker's down, and a flag is thrown down. Hunter made the reception, and Russell Harrison gave him a good solid hit. So 2 flags down here now.
We heard from New York coach Jim Ballack this morning that there's absolutely no love lost between these two teams. They played against each other, scrimmaged against each other a number of times in Orlando at training camp, so they know each other pretty well, and they may let things get away from them just a bit out here tonight as well. Earl Sorgan now going to take a look at 2 flags on the field and see how this one's going to shake out.
Holding, number 65 offense. Personal foul against the defense. Penalties offset.
Joe Herring is on the far sideline. The coach of Pittsburgh still wondering why a procedure call wasn't made to play before. But, Joe, that's part of the game. These officials, there's only 4 of them on the field, so they've got an awful lot to look for out there.
His defense has allowed the most yards per game, some 295. 291 of those being passing. Nobody rushes it against him very much. As Krochikia once again in trouble, a penalty marker goes down. Federico, one of the men in there on Jim Krochikia. Also at the bottom of the stack, that's Pat Ogren, 68, who Steve will be talking to at halftime.
And this one's going to go against New York as well. Another holding call. This is one of the problems that you have when you've got converted defensive players playing an offensive line position.
Offense, penalty decline. Second down.
No call on the player, but we see Grandy now coming out, the big 290-pounder.
Now, wait, let me correct you there. You said 290, but we were told he weighed 308 pounds.
Yeah, he's listed at 290. I'm trying to be generous.
It's all those guys that weigh over 300 pounds or over 7 feet tall, where they want to be 6'11 or 290.
That's right.
Second down and 17. Krochickia deep. The intended receiver, Edwin Lovelady.
You know, it's one thing for these guys like Lovelady, who can run around all day and probably not get too tired. He's not all that big. But think about Grandy at 290 pounds, having to go both ways out here. That's the tough part about this
hit on every play.
Every play. As a receiver defensive back, you may not get hit 2-3 plays in a row. But up there on that line, you're taking a shot every play.
You were no fool. That's why
That's why I played outside. What does that say about you as a lineman?
Not much. Not much. Third and 17. 16-13. The New York Knights with a 3-point lead. And the clock running. 3:13 left to go. Remember, at the 1-minute mark, it will stop on out of bounds and incompletions. And now they've taken too much time, but they got the timeout called before the 30-second clock. Let's hear what Jim Valek's got to say.
What I was thinking was too delay. Well, no. We got back. We got third and about 20. We got 17 yards. So I was bringing the guy, the motion with the X, and then bringing it back against the grain on the long post. Yeah. Okay. And hey, Jim, when I call the fly, just let the puppy go. I mean, you can let it, just get rid of it. He get rid of it. Right. And the other. I had the post right there, but it was, I had to throw it soon. Yeah, that's why. As you look at me, and I understand.
Monty Charles, the offensive coach, there with Jim Valek, and you heard the pattern. Krochickia is very understanding. You know, he's an Ivy League graduate from Penn, was an investment banker on Wall Street before he was called back to the football wars.
You don't have to tell him more than once. There's Monty Charles, the offensive coordinator. He's been around a lot, mostly in Canada, Winnipeg, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, Montreal. He's been to all the Canadian teams. And again, they like this stretch the field offense and look for this deep post down the middle. If it's there, Krochickia is going to go for it. They've got 17 yards they have to pick up for a first.
It's third down and 17. Hunter's the man in motion. And Wells jumped offside. So they got a free one. They've got a free one. And Krochickia wisely throws it down. Falls down, but there's going to be a penalty against the Pittsburgh Gladiators. So that'll give them a few less yards to cover, but I don't think it'll change much because, once again, their attitude is to go deep as often as you can.
And Craig Walls not quite timing his jump off the line of scrimmage.
Well, we've got a Thursday night game for you next week, and we'll see these New York Knights again, and they'll be taking on the Detroit Drive at Joe Louis Arena. And hope you can be there with us for our Thursday night. Excuse me, it'll be Pittsburgh and not New York. Krochickia, pump fake, got a man, it's Bass. Whoa, my. And a touchdown. Oh, my. Greg Bass. And I got to tell you what, that hurts, folks, and it hurts bad because he came right down on the shoulder and he gave it to his big offensive lineman, number 64, Walter Houseman, and said, big fella, you spike it. I can't.
Hey, this is a guy that's been out with the slightly separated shoulder. This is laying it out. You don't see a better catch than this in any game of football anywhere. You just lay it out, baby. On the fingertips, bring that ball in. That's as good a catch as I think I have ever seen. Steve Largent would make a catch like this. This is just, look at this. You don't make a better catch than that. Greg Bass out of Kansas State.
From Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and played for Chuck Noll in the Pittsburgh Steelers in '83 and then the Cleveland Browns in '84. Oh, what a catch.
Boy, oh boy, he even looks a little like Largent. size-wise, speed-wise, that shoulder's got to be a little bit sore, but hey, that's okay. You sacrifice a shoulder for a catch like that.
Holy smoke. Cradaville for the extra point. And there's a penalty marker down. The penalty marker is down. Well, New York had scored just 8 points off their kicking game coming into this game. And Cradaville has picked it up a bit. The signal's going to be against the Pittsburgh Gladiators.
We may have had somebody rushing from too far outside on this kick. Let's wait and see. But it's an illegal defense of some kind against Pittsburgh, so New York's going to get another shot at it. Cradaville and company.
Illegal rush by the outside linebacker. Replay the try.
That's what it is. Illegal rush by the outside man on the Pittsburgh team. Again, because you only have so many players out here, you can't get so wide that you're out there with nobody around to block against you.
Cradaville's been good on his other 2 extra point tries, and that is good too, over the top. He got great height on that one, so Cradaville's been perfect on the extra points. And the New York Knights now lead the Pittsburgh Gladiators 23-13 with 1 minute and 54 seconds left to go, first half. And once again, with 1 minute remaining in the half, the clock will stop on out-of-bounds situations and incomplete passes.
Well, you know, as a former receiver, Roger, that catch, I just got to keep going back to that. That's one of those things that a kid will play football for 15, 16 years and never have an opportunity to make that kind of catch. And, you know, as a receiver, you never know if you can make that kind of grab until you're actually put in a position of somebody throwing that ball out.
Or whether you want to make that kind of grab, that's the other thing.
And sacrifice the body for it. Boy, that was a grand catch.
Cradaville will kick it off. And he got a great kick that time. We're going to play that off the net. Rock Richmond has it. And Richmond, the cardinal sin about returning kickoffs, he started going backwards. And let's take a look at that touchdown pass from Chicky. Great pass. And look at the way he extends his body.
You know, a defensive back by trade, as a matter of fact, which makes this all the more fantastic a catch for this kid. My goodness, just every inch of that 5'10" body stretched out. On the fingertips, he makes the catch.
We're on our way back. We're going to win this one.
There you go. He's on his way back. They're going to win this one. Well, hope that shoulder's feeling all right, pal. That's a great grab.
First and 10 for the Gladiators. Hohensee. He's got his main man from a year ago, Russell Hairston. And I'll tell you what, when you've got something good, you go back to it as soon as you can. And Hohensee's no fool. As the clock continues to run, and will run down at the 1 minute mark, well, they'll take a time and get things set up for the final minute of this first half. So, with 1 minute left to go in the half, the New York Knights lead the Pittsburgh Gladiators 23-13.
Imagine being so moved by a story of people that you would help them.
We'll be back to the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Beautiful day here in the Pittsburgh area, and hope all of you getting your Memorial Day weekend off to a good start. Glad you could be with us here on ESPN in our 5th week of arena football. Mike Hohensee, the quarterback, and 1 minute left to go. The clock will stop on incomplete passes and out-of-bounds plays. And the intended receiver down at the goal line is Russell Hairston. So Hohensee has found a good thing, and he has continued to go back to Russell Hairston, playing his first game since returning to the Pittsburgh Gladiators. Really an interesting young man. University of Kentucky graduate, liked to be a lawyer, and decided he'd rather play arena football than the National Football League. And some people might say, well, you know, how can he make that choice? Well, in fact, he did. I mean, he was signed by Atlanta and did get released, but more of his own doing than anything else, and then was offered a contract with Minnesota, but really wanted to play here. As Hohensee's got a man, that's Powell, and he's knocked out of bounds. Brian Moran, at the 20-yard line. And the clock will stop with 51 seconds left to go. A 10-point New York Knights lead. And it'll be a 3rd down and 4 situation. Joe Herring looking back at Daryl Pop Jackson, his offensive coach, for a little advice on what they would like to run offensively. Moran is 31. 23 is the newest member of the Gladiators, Russell Hairston. And that pass was intended for Rick Shepis, number 89. Shepis, a newcomer out of Youngstown State, less than an hour from the Pittsburgh area. And it's now 4th and 4. Now, there are 48 seconds to go, and a pretty big decision here for Joe Herring. Does he go for the first down? If not, they try the field goal, and they are going to go for the first down. But if they don't make it, New York's got good field position with a lot of time left. And, of course, both teams with all their timeouts. Owensy, who's not been intercepted this year, is going deep. Touchdown! Russell Hairston. And when you think maybe they'll settle for just the first down, they go deep. And Hairston with his second touchdown reception, and the second time he has beaten the defensive specialist of the New York Knights. That's Elbert Gray. And let's take a look at it. Owensy, the pump fake to the near side, and then down the middle in the crossing pattern. And I'll tell you what, folks, when you're 6 feet 5 inches tall, he's got 5 inches on that defensive man. That little reach didn't seem like much, but it was at the goal line. And we've got ourselves now another close game, 23-19, 43 seconds left to go. And Owensy is going to go for 2. Owensy gets it into the end zone, 2-point conversion, and that was Ernest Adams, his eligible offensive lineman. So Ernest Adams, who you might say, has he caught any passes previous to this? Yes, he has caught. He has caught 2 previous passes, and both of those passes have been for touchdowns. So every time Ernest Adams touches the football, he scores points. So a couple of touchdown receptions, and also now a reception for a 2-point conversion, and we've got a 2-point ball game. 23-21. The New York Knights lead it with 43 seconds left to go. And folks, we've got plenty of time left in the first half, 43 seconds. And we want to remind you, we'll be with you next Thursday night, where the same Pittsburgh Gladiators, not the New York Knights, will be in Detroit to take on the Drive. And, of course, the Detroit Drive playing Chicago tonight in Chicago. And we'll be with you on Thursday for the College World Series. Swinging in full steam on ESPN, and you'll be seeing that next week also. Ricky, real deep kick off the netting. And Corville will say yes and put it down. And it'll be 1st and 10 for the New York Knights, as Vince Corville having a few words with the officials. And Rusty Prickey, well, he's shown us a good, strong leg 2 weeks ago. Didn't have a very good game last week against Los Angeles. Once again, folks, any kick rebounded off the net is a live ball, may be recovered and advanced by either team, but you've got to give that receiving man 5 yards to receive it. Got to give him 5 yards, or that's a penalty. So Korchickia and the New York Knights from the 5-yard line. 1st and 10, lots of time left. Corville's the motion man. Penalty markers down. Bennett, the recently signed wide receiver defensive back, across the 15 to the 17. Craig Federico makes the tackle, and the clock stops with 35 seconds. Penalty is going to be on the New York Knights, and this is what has plagued this team throughout this year. They won their first game against the Los Angeles Cobras, and they have had problems ever since. As Jim Valek, their head coach, who...
Delay of game number 66 did not report as a tight end.
Well, that's twice that's happened tonight. I can remember last week 3 or 4 times that's happening. The guilty party was Pete Walders. So that offensive lineman who comes in, who is eligible, Walders is eligible to receive passes. If he doesn't have an 80 number, he has to report. Al Washington in motion. Korchickia's got Corville out of bounds, and the clock will stop at 28 seconds left. Brian Moran. And they didn't stop the clock. So they'll take a timeout. We mentioned at the top of the show that the Los Angeles Cobras won their 2nd game in a row, and Matt Stevens last night with 3 touchdown passes. And last week, though, against these Pittsburgh Gladiators, 9 touchdown passes. So the former UCLA great has got the Cobras a couple of wins in a row, and he was the Arena Football Player of the Week for that effort against the Pittsburgh Gladiators. And Joe Herring pacing the sidelines like a cat. As you can see, the timeouts remaining for Pittsburgh and New York. Pittsburgh, of course, a team who played last year in the Arena Football League, lost in the championship game, but many of these players back. And, of course, Joe Herring, their coach from a year ago, back. And Joe's told us on several occasions how, I don't know if I have better personnel, but I definitely have a team that's in great shape. We're a little smaller and more defensive-oriented. And myself and my coaches and my team maybe knows a little bit more about arena football. He said things will even out. And we're seeing that as each week progresses. 2nd down and 2 for the New York Knights. Al Washington was the man in motion. And Roger Twyville, Steve Rabel back with you at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. Cradaville to kick it off. He's had an outstanding night. Rusty Fricky, the kicker for Pittsburgh, has had a good night. And Richmond will let that go through the end of the end zone, and they'll have a 1st and 10 from the 5. First half statistics look this way. 10 of 14 for New York, 9 of 18 for Pittsburgh. Passing yardage, the difference there, 157 to 90. Penalty yards, a big difference, 6 for 24, 2 for 6. Field goals, 1 of 2, 1 of 3, and no turnovers.
I think the most interesting there, quite frankly, Roger, is the fact that penalties. New York hit with 6, yet they're still leading. Earlier in the season, that would really be a problem for them. Plus, they probably have 2 or 3 turnovers this time of the game. So they've been playing much better football the last couple of weeks.
Kicking game's been a big difference for them tonight. Hohensee, 1st and 10. Russell Hairston looked so good, but he drops that one at the 9-yard line. And in Chicago tonight, the Bruisers with a 10-0 lead over the Detroit Drive in the first quarter. Chicago, the only unbeaten team remaining in arena football. And Billy Stone, who is making people believe that you can't run the football in this game, had a rushing touchdown.
Last year's Iron Man, the best at going both ways in all of arena football.
Hohensee's got Shepis, and he's wide open. Got a block down the sideline, but he stepped out of bounds at the 23-yard line. Boy, Moran was trying to spring him free down the sideline, but he was wide open here, Steve. How come?
Well, it had to be a mix-up in coverage because you don't get that open on a field this size. If your defender hasn't run off someplace easily, you can see that Shepis steps out of bounds right there. No question about it. But yes, somebody blew coverage back there in the secondary and allowed Shepis to run free. Young man out of Youngstown State, replacing Rob Miner, who had 7 catches last week. So Shepis has some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. And he's in motion right now. Owensee's got Moran. And a penalty marker goes down as Best gave him a shot after the pass was overthrown. So number 31, Brian Moran, who played his college football at Akron. So I imagine Best.
Look at this. Yeah, ball was clearly overthrown. Play was over. And Best still kind of smacked into the receiver. And that's one of the things that, again, Jim Valek told us this morning, the coach of the New York Knights, silly mistakes on the part of his players last week really hurt his team against New England.
Defense.
So Best, who makes the great touchdown catch. Come on, Chris!
Julius Dawkins, who was injured a little bit earlier in the game, left the game, may be back in tonight. He's got a slightly pulled hamstring. We'll keep our eye out for him.
1st and 10. And both the receiver and the defender, and boy, a late flag, but a flag nonetheless, as Albert Gray was defending against Russell Hairston, and Hohensee's getting up because he was decked pretty good as he threw the ball.
Greg Best is hot. He's questioning whether it shouldn't be against Russell Hairston. And I think it's going to go against New York. Best is really mad. Although the man who was in there on the play, number 40, Albert Gray, not saying a word. So Russell Hairston coming back to arena football and making his presence felt even when he doesn't catch the pass will make the big play, just because you've got to cover him so tightly.
Number 25 defense.
Well,
First down.
of course, Gray had nothing to say. It wasn't on him. That's right. It was on Best, after all. So, penalties, mistakes, starting to pile up on the New York Knights and allowing the Pittsburgh Gladiators to move it down the field on their first possession of this second half. Shepis in motion. And a penalty marker down. I think the center might have made a false move. Those centers get nervous sometimes when they see a lot of people bouncing around in front of them.
Well, Quentin Knight was jumping around trying to do just that, shake up the center, Faberé Collins, out of Southern Illinois University, who is a linebacker by trade.
A dead ball foul by the center.
There's the call by Verl Sorgen, the official. The man with the red hat.
You know, everybody has those most embarrassing moments in sports. I had one of those when I was in center. We called an audible. I thought we called for a run from a pass, but it was the other way. And I snapped it, and I ran downfield, and everybody just stood there and looked at me. I mean, nobody else moved.
And the flag flew.
Lonely. ONC, Shepard, touchdown. Rick Shepard.
Shepard, who hasn't played defense since high school, has played plenty of offense. And the pass here from Hohensee, again, the key for Hohensee is getting time because Shepard finds that seam back there. Look at the shot into the wall. Padded walls, but still a wall nonetheless.
Well, I want to tell you something. Edwin Lovelady, who made that hit, now has to go on the offensive side. Shepard will play some defense, and that's one of the beauties about arena football.
The matchups continue on both sides of the football, and they just turn right around, change positions.
And the Gladiators have their first lead of the night, 27-26, and they are going to go for two now as Hohensee brings them up to the 5-yard line. Moran in motion. Well, the middle was wide open. The middle was wide open. Everybody flooded the right side, and Russell Hairston was there, but Hohensee with some pressure threw it behind him. Timeout on the field. Pittsburgh has their first lead of the night, 27-26 against the New York Knights.
Every day, Jack Taylor and Joe Donovan take the same road home. But today, they went a little out of their way.
Give you a hand.
Here's to you, the clean, crisp taste of Beechwood-aged Budweiser. For all the guys who go out of their way.
It's bad for you.
Pittsburgh with a 1-point lead over the New York Knights. And we've been updated. Chicago now leading Detroit 17-0. So the Chicago Bruisers. And their head coach, a man who was here last year, Perry Moss, doing a super job. And another good deep kick. And that bounces up in the stands, and the fans get to keep the football. And that's the first one we've had in the stands.
A couple of fans down there fighting for it, as a matter of fact.
And I'm sure if the folks watched last week and they saw Cradaville kicking for New York, he sent a lot of them in the stands, and they were probably expecting a few more. But he's kicked very well tonight.
And we talked about that last week a couple of times. Jim Cradaville, who hooked that ball into the stands a few
Goes
times.
on the 20, first down.
All right, ball comes out to the 20. Because, again, it sailed out before it got to the goal line, the rule. But, again, Cradaville last week kicking a couple up into the stands, had been practicing on his corner kick, his coffin corner kick, and just putting a little too much on it, kind of like a bad golf shot, and pushing it a little bit out of bounds.
Boy, Joe Herring's out on the field, and he had better get off, or he could get hit with a penalty. Boy, the crowd loves Herring.
Now, whatever...
And they're going to bring it back to the 5-yard line.
Right, whatever his argument was.
The ball did hit in the end zone. It appeared after it hit the netting.
And it doesn't look like he's going to change his call. Jim Valek down there asking what's going on. He can't get an answer, neither can we.
Krochikia. Lovelady. And the tackle made by the man that just scored the touchdown, Shepard. And we were told now Chicago leading 24-0 in the second quarter. Perry Moss obviously knows something that nobody else does.
You know something certainly that Detroit doesn't know, and that's at this point how to put points on the board.
I think he's got a pretty good defense and a real good quarterback in Ben Bennett.
I think that really helps. That's what Pittsburgh has been counting on this season so far, although the defense has been struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks.
2nd and 5. Krochickia gets it off, but he's nailed. And we're going to say, yeah, it was a reception by Lovelady. And a good one at that, at the 17-yard line. Federico and Rock Richmond were over there, but Krochickia took a shot from Adams.
Well, as a matter of fact, watch your screen. Adams, you didn't see it right there, but Adams actually threw his arms back just as he hit Krochickia. Fine catch by Edwin Lovelady. So for every drop that we have out here, we maybe have 2 or 3 really good catches. Best, of course, comes to mind. But Adams, a minute ago, actually pulled off a little bit just at the last second as he was about to hit Krochickia.
Hunter split to the near side. Lovelady at the top of your screen. That's Best in motion. On 1st and 10, and look at this, a running play. And Hughes barrels across midfield down to the 20-yard line. Boy, Derek Hughes is a big fullback. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, and New York doesn't run it very often.
But when they do, look out, because this guy can pick up a lot of steam. Hurt his neck a little bit in practice this week. There was some concern as to whether he'd be able to play. Mr. Excitement, they call him, out of Michigan State.
Only his 8th rushing attempt of the year. And that was good for a first down. Krochickia loses it, picks it up, pump fake, and he is nailed. 51 for the Gladiators, Fabre Collins.
That's the all-name team.
Oh, we got a couple. Edwin Lovelady, Fabre Collins, and Federico. I think that's a good, that's a solid football name.
Fabre, a pretty good defensive player. Had 19 tackles in 3 games as a Viking replacement last year during the strike in the National Football League. There you see him, number 51.
2nd and 15, 8:25 as the clock runs here in the 3rd quarter. Hunter is in motion to the near side. And Krochickia that time was standing in the pocket, and his own man, Derek Hughes, who was blocking for him, was pushed back into it.
And Walls and Krochickia having a little bit of a discussion, but actually it was Fabre who was in there again. And Walls coming up to see to it that Krochickia wasn't going to get up off the ground after he was sacked yet again. So the problems that New York had last week in protecting their quarterback continue here in the second half, as the Gladiators are up by a point with about 7.5 minutes left to go here in the 3rd quarter.
6 sacks by Pittsburgh this evening. 3rd down and 20 out of the shotgun. Going to Hunter, threw it behind him. And 44 Powell helps 44 Federico up. Or Derek Hughes, excuse me.
And Jim's got a smile inside his face mask there. He's saying to himself, now that I've got the time, you guys protected well, now I can't hit the open receiver. And the receiver was open.
So 4th down situation now. And Cradaville's got to have all the confidence in the world, as Krochickia will put it down at the 11 to make this a 47-yard attempt. It's up. It's long enough. And it's just wide now. It's in play. They didn't give him 5 yards. Well, again, this is a touchdown. This is that call, the 5-yard penalty marker's down. A penalty marker is down.
The referees are going to talk about it here. The officials, they've got to check this thing out. It's kind of a confusing rule when that ball hits.
Best was the man down there who picked up the football.
We have a touchdown. We have a touchdown.
The ball, according to the rules, as I know them, the ball is live.
No penalty when the ball hit the ground.
Right.
The kicking team was far enough away.
Okay.
Touchdown.
That explains that. He's got to be 5 yards when it touches the ground of the man.
Right. And they were outside the 5-yard range. So watch, here's the kick. Plenty long enough. Had a chance. Hits the net. Bounces down. Now look, way off the 5-yard rule.
Absolutely.
Plenty far away.
There's Best. You see him coming in right there. And see, now Richmond made a mistake.
Right.
Instead of concentrating on the football, he started looking at the man coming in, and touchdown.
That's right. Smack the ball out of bounds. Do anything. Actually, just, again, it pays to be lucky, and a great lucky bounce for New York because it bounced high enough that Richmond had to have time to think what he was going to do, and you can't think. You've got to react.
Cradaville to attempt the point after. It's up and over, and it's good again. I'll tell you what, he's kicked like an all-pro tonight. And the New York Knights have jumped back out on top, 33-27 over the Pittsburgh Gladiators with 6:23 left to go, third quarter. And Greg Best with the fumble recovery for the touchdown.
They'll cut me right off the bottom line. Maybe I better not show it to them. No doubt in my mind. It's a case we can win.
There's one airline that knows its business so well, it actually lets you keep your mind on yours.
Three-part strategy.
United. Rededicated to giving you the service you deserve.
Our guys flying tonight. There's tomorrow. We all fly on Thursday.
Come fly the friendly skies.
I got this covered or what?
ESPN heats up the sports scene in June. Sizzling shots and early round action from the prestigious U.S. Open. Fired up live coverage throughout the world's greatest endurance race, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. June sparkles with future Major League stars in the College World Series. The steamy premiere of Hot Tuesday Night. Live Wednesday night PBA Tour action and Saturday night arena football. The heat is on in June on ESPN.
And there's a look at Greg Best. He's done it offensively and defensively so far tonight. A great catch in the end zone. And then down on the kick coverage. And Greg Best with a couple of touchdowns. And the Knights lead the Gladiators 33-27. You know, Joe Herring told us this morning the kicking game, when you kick it off the net, it's 50-50 either way. You can make it an offense for you. And the Knights did it that time. Richmond brings it back up the middle to the 12-yard line. And for the New York Knights, number 32, Johnny Shepard, makes the tackle. So, as usual, when Pittsburgh plays, it's a high-scoring football game.
And lucky for them that their offense is able to keep up this week and put some points on the board. They haven't turned it over too much tonight.
You know, Cradaville's field goal was the first field goal kicked against Pittsburgh successfully this year.
And I believe the first field goal for New York.
Yep, exactly, this year. First and 10, 5:58. Quick out, and the pass is completed. Penalty marker goes down in the backfield. Burmeister made the reception, and Hornsey slow in getting up, as it looked as though Walter Hausman, 64, might have gotten a late shot in there.
No, Alec Gibson is talking with the official, too.
Get him away. I don't know. Cut it out. 92's ineligible. That's what he was telling. 92's ineligible. Yeah, 92's ineligible, guys. 95, pardon me. The 90 number's ineligible. 95's ineligible. The 90 number's ineligible.
A little roughing the passer action against New York.
I heard the official saying the 90 number's ineligible.
I don't know about the 90 numbers ineligible, but maybe the player is if he hasn't come in and reported.
So that means that 68 then for the Pittsburgh Gladiators.
Pat Ogren. Now let's keep our eyes on the line of scrimmage right here.
Well, as we say, folks, every week we learn a little something new. I think the officials are at least willing to get together and have conferences to figure out
Illegal zone defense is declined. Personal foul for roughing the passer is accepted.
Okay, that's what we thought first of all. That, there was roughing the passer, and there Walter Hausman and Gibson, as you mentioned, Steve, were both in there. So consequently, a first down for Pittsburgh at the 23 of New York. Shepard in motion. ONC got a man open. Maybe some confusion on the pattern. 31, Brian Moran, was open on an out. ONC threw it down.
Well, the problem for the receivers in this game is that you've got such a narrow field. you've got to turn it up much quicker than you normally would on a regular football field, the regular width of a football field. This is only 80-some feet wide here. So you've got to turn that play up. The quarterback does not have a lot of time. He's got to try to guess where you're going to come out of that pass route, and that time Hohensee just guessed wrong from where Moran broke off. 2nd and 10, quick one to Moran. Trying to turn it up. And gets inside the 20 to about the 18, where a host of players, including Vince Corville, over there on the tackle. Moran, one of my favorite college nicknames, the Zips of Akron. Kid's a pretty intelligent kid, too. I mean, we're talking a guy here, a construction engineering degree. So he's another one of these kids who comes out and plays because they really enjoy playing the game. It's a great time for them.
I thought your interview with Ogren was very interesting. I did want to add, though, that maybe at the age of 30 it was a little tougher for him than when he was 22 or 3.
I would expect so, yeah.
3rd and 5, Hohensee on the out, and he's got the man right out there on the sideline. That's Russell Hairston. Good for a first down to the 7-yard line, and Elbert Gray's got his hands full right now.
Well, he's given away probably half a foot to the big guy. Take a look. Hairston makes the catch, makes sure he gets his feet in bounds, bangs into the wall. But again, this is something, Hairston is used to this. He was out here last year. He knows how to play off the walls. He knows how to play these sidelines, and he certainly knows how to get up. I'm waiting to see them throw the little alley-oop to this guy because there's not a defensive back on the field who is the size, height-wise, of Russell Hairston.
4:10 left to go in the 3rd. Hohensee, there he is. Touchdown to Hairston, his 3rd of the night. Well, I'll tell you what, this guy hasn't missed a beat, Steve. He just comes back. There are those players that set coaching back 20 years because they don't need training camp. They don't need practice. They can just come out and play.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was never one of those. No. That would have been a lot of fun to be able to do that. But Hairston, he just comes down and across, and Elbert Gray just can't keep up with him. And the 9-yard TD catch there sets the towels a-waving by the Pittsburgh fans. Kind of reminiscent of the old days with the Steelers in their winning years, the terrible towels. What can we have here? Maybe the wicked washcloths or something.
Tied at 33. Fricky. And somebody might have gotten a piece of that. It was a tough snap. Hohensee got it down. And Hairston picking up where he left off last year. The league MVP, and we're tied at 33 in Pittsburgh.
First, Gillette made shaving closer. Then we made it smoother. With Atra Plus, its Luber Smooth Strip glides the razor over your face for Gillette's smoothest shave. The Atra Plus system. First we made it closer, then we made it smoother.
G'day, mate.
Crocodile Dundee is back into the swing of things.
Oh, excuse me.
Paul Hogan in Crocodile Dundee 2, rated PG. Now playing everywhere.
Knockout night. 3 World Championship bouts in one evening. Thomas Hearns battles to keep his WBC middleweight championship from Iran Barkley. Knockout night, a pay-per-view event. Monday, June 6th. Call your cable operator and order today.
Well, Russell Hairston with 5 receptions, 68 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And, boy, you can tell Hohensee's no fool. He's been going to him every time he can. As Fricky sends it deep off the net. Yes, it is. It's a live ball. Corville gets it outside the 5 to the 6-yard line. Well, that's a whole other dimension to this game, and I think teams are, some of them knew what effective that net could be, but I think more of them are finding out about it.
Well, and when you have a guy, too, like Corville, who's returning the kicks, he's the top returner for the New York team. Such quick feet. Watch him now. He immediately decides where the players are coming from, the on-rushing Pittsburgh players, makes a couple of quick moves. Look at that. He just jukes players, is able to slip away from tackles, and if he had one more step there, he might just turn that play back upfield.
And that was Upcar, who's checked back into the game. He's had a groin problem, walking to the reception at the 10-yard line. So Upcar is checked back in. He's number 67.
I think we expected to see a little bit more of Al Washington tonight, too. He's been pretty well controlled. But then again, Krachickia, remember, he's got one of his favorite receivers from early in the year, Greg Best, back, and Greg has seen a pretty fair amount of action tonight, and so obviously you can't get it to everybody.
Well, and Hunter's back, too. And All good quarterbacks like to spread the wealth. Sure. 2nd and 6 from the 10-yard line. And Oakford jumped offside. Penalty marker goes down. It was a quick pitch, and it doesn't go anywhere because Walls is just too quick for those running backs. Matter of fact, he's probably faster than the running backs.
Probably faster than a lot of them. There's no question about that.
Greg Walls. And we've got a penalty. The nose guard is going to be offside. That was Oakford for the Pittsburgh Gladiators.
And that hurts, too, when you've got such a great defensive play made that time.
Offside.
New York, who doesn't run the ball very often,
Still 2nd down.
finally decide to turn and pitch. There's the offside jumping into the neutral zone. No question there. Then you've got a great play by Walls on the outside, and it doesn't count for anything because of the penalty.
Along with Steve Rabel, I'm Roger Twybo at the Civic Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we've got a great one here. 33 apiece with 2 minutes left to go. 3rd quarter. 2nd down and 3. Krochicki a deep. Was it intercepted or trapped? No. They're going to say it hit the ground. I believe it did hit the ground. Rock Richmond ended up making the interception, but I think the ball did touch the ground, and I think it was a good call by the official.
Well, I think if Rock had cleanly intercepted, he'd be arguing a lot more than he is right now. The receiver literally ran away from the ball and just kind of gave up on it. But Rock Richmond didn't give up on it. And he had some help back there. In fact, he ran into his own teammate. Now there's the ball bouncing around. Is it going to hit the ground? One hand on it. On the ground. Yeah. Nice try by Rock, but nice play by
down and 3. Corville in motion. Bad snap from center. Krochicki gets rid of it. And it's enough for the 1st down. That was Washington, the guy we talked about, who can play a little bit of everything. You can play some quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back, running back. Played at Southern Cal.
And it comes in with, coming into tonight, had 4 touchdown receptions and a couple of interceptions as well. So gives you an idea, again, the kind of athlete that they're looking for to play this arena football game. And that is somebody who's versatile enough to go both ways.
Less than a minute in the 3rd quarter. And that time, Corville came in motion to the near side, and he got caught between 2 of his men. Corville, number 34, got caught behind Grandy, all 305 pounds of him.
Once you get caught back there, you're there for a long time because he's got a lot of width back there to get caught up on.
And Johnny Shepard was in the slot right there. And what happened was he came in between him, and Grandy felt somebody behind him, so he stood up to look and see who it was. And he forgot he was on the offensive line. And that's a penalty.
That certainly is.
1st down and 12. Krochicki has got a man open, and a beautiful defensive play by Russell Harrison. Penalty markers down at the line of scrimmage.
Couple of them. Boy, what a nice job by Harrison. This guy is just so smooth.
See, that's the size right there, Steve, because the man had 5 yards on him, but being 6'5", he's able just to know how high he can jump and how far he can let somebody get behind him.
Right. And the penalty is going to go against New York, where they've just gotten clobbered here lately, a holding call. But here's Harrison turning and breaking on the ball. Just such a nice, slender athlete with such great balance and grace.
Well, Grandy, who did one of the all-time big league holds earlier in the game, which we had a few others, called for holding this time. Look at this. 11 for 53 for New York. Pittsburgh 4-12. And Ballack's got to be happy that they're tied at 33.
Oh, he's ecstatic. There's no question about it. His guys are in it. They've been able to make the plays when they needed them, even though they've made an awful lot of penalties.
And that will do it for the 3rd quarter as we head for the final 15. All tied at 33 apiece from the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
The upset of the week is brought to you by Pepto-Bismol. For most common stomach discomforts, the one that coats is the only one you need. The final day of qualifying at this year's Indy 500, and Rich Vogler had the slowest time of the 33-car field. Gordon Johncock was able to produce a speed just fast enough to bump Vogler from the field. But his time was only good enough for last position. As qualifying time expired, Vogler qualified in his backup car, beating Johncock's time and knocking the 2-time winner from the starting grid. Our Pepto-Bismol upset of the week.
Mom, where's my other red sock?
Okay. Oh, it's just a little stomach thing.
Mom!
I'm late.
I have to wear red socks. I don't look like a nerd.
I knew it. You're sick.
I forgot how bad diarrhea feels.
Don't worry. All you need is this.
Here it comes. The soothing relief of Pepto-Bismol. The one that coats is the only one you need.
Feeling better?
A-okay.
Great. Now, if I could only find Susie's red socks.
Did you look in the laundry?
They're the Major League stars of the future. First, they're fighting to win the NCAA College World Series. 8 days of great play. Friday, June 3rd, live on ESPN.
Hi, Tom. Looks like you beat me again.
No problem, Whitey. Have a sporting news on me. I get it at home, and that's where I'm heading.
I get the sporting news at home, too. But when I'm on the road, I buy it to keep up, especially about you American Leaguers.
I thought you were always up on us American Leaguers, Whitey.
Watch it, Kelly. I'll get you at the All-Star game for that one. In the meantime, stay with the sporting news.
For all the baseball news, read the Sporting News every week. You get hot pennant action, player profiles, more stats and inside updates than any other sports weekly. Plus complete year-round coverage of football, basketball, and hockey, including special issues. Call for a super deal that saves you 75% off the newsstand price.
For convenient home delivery and a super deal, call now toll-free 1-800-535-7700. Get 55 issues of the Sporting News for 4 easy payments of $7.50. Call now 1-800-535-7700. That's 1-800-535-7700.
They call it the war on the floor, and that's what it's going to be in the final 15 minutes here. Tied at 33, and we talked about the fatigue factor at the top. We talked about it with the players. Steve, we're going to see what happens here.
We've seen a couple of guys getting a little extra stretching out there as the third quarter wound down.
First and 17, and Prochikia finds Hunter. At midfield, Rock Richmond and Shepis. And Shepis was the man who was getting some stretching. And Bill and Jimmy, the trainer for the Pittsburgh Gladiators, was telling him that Shepis is new. It's his first game, and he's finding out what this two-way football is all about.
He's telling him down there, he said, stretch every chance you get. Keep those hamstrings loose.
7,577 on hand here at the Civic Arena tonight in Pittsburgh. Second and 8. Prochikia going deep, and Lovelady was open, and it was overthrown. Let's run down the scoring round. First quarter, Lovelady from Prochikia, then a couple of safeties, and then Hunter from Prochikia, 16-2 after 1. In the second quarter, Fricky with the 46-yarder, Hairston the 14-yard touchdown pass from Hohensee, then Best the great catch from Prochikia, Hairston again from Hohensee, and then Cradaville the 50-yarder, 26-21 at the half, and then Shepis from Hohensee, the kick recovery by Best, and then Hairston again his third touchdown catch, and we're tied at 33 in the fourth quarter. Hunter, the motion man. 3rd and 9. Hunter, the intended receiver, and Richmond breaks it up, but the pass was deflected on the rush. It was either Walls or Adams, one of the two that got a hand on it.
Whoever it was, Prochikia releases the chin strap and has a couple of things to say, like, hey, guys, come on, give me a break. I took it on the chin again, trying to throw. Let's go. A little better protection here. That ball just sort of fluttered out there in the direction of Stan Hunter.
Now, it's 4th and 9, and Cradaville will come in and put the tee down.
What a difference.
18-yard line.
What a difference in a week for a guy like Cradaville. What a fine job he's done tonight.
Maybe they told him he was going to be out of a job. Valley says he has 50 kickers call him every Monday. 40-yard field goal attempt. It's plenty long, and it's plenty good. Boy, Cradaville, who hadn't kicked a field goal all year, has got 2 tonight. And the Knights lead 36-33. As a matter of fact, they only had 8 points off their kicking game coming in, and they've got that many this evening. We'll be back right after this.
I tell you, he's gotten goofy.
I like your dad.
Dad? He thinks he's my brother. Last night we were shooting hoops at 10 o'clock.
So?
Marty, this is the same man who never lifts his nose out of a newspaper. Now we listen to Z-Rock on the radio. What is this?
The right vitamin nutrition and a balanced diet helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19, 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals.
I just wish he'd act his age, like your dad.
Feel like 19 again.
Cradaville to kick it off now from his own goal line. Shepis and Richmond back for the Pittsburgh Gladiators. Pittsburgh with just one loss that last week. And New York looking for their second win of the year after winning their first game. And we We have a situation, folks, where Cradaville just kicked that so high he hit a wire hanging down from the ceiling. We saw that last week, and there it is, folks.
Well, you have things get in the way. What can we say? We're playing in an arena. Ergo the name, arena football. You have to deal with it. They dropped the ball directly underneath the spot where it hit the obstruction up in the ceiling. There, you see it.
What are the odds it can hit a wire that's not even a half-inch in diameter?
Well, I don't quite know. Let's call Jimmy the Greek here.
You're a college graduate, Steve. Give me some numbers here. But see, I mean, that is an unfortunate break for New York and a great break for Pittsburgh, because they've got field position at the 21.
Yeah, gets them out from underneath their own goalpost.
Moran in motion. 1st and 10. Quick out. Moran makes the reception, and Cornville, who's really turned into a good defensive player. He was an offensive player with the Houston Gamblers, one of that host of receivers that Mouse Davis had with Jim Kelly down there.
The Mouseketeers. He's the smallest guy on this New York team, and yet he was one of the top tacklers. So he's one of those guys, again, that's just a fine athlete and has really come on and played well.
And we are told that Julius Dawkins will definitely not return because of a hamstring. And there's some good numbers, and you got to be impressed. No interceptions so far tonight. A couple of near misses. But Dawkins, who got up to a tough start, dropped a couple of touchdown passes, then pulls the hamstring. 2nd and 7. Hohensy's got his man Russell Harrison at the 16.
I was just going to say, Roger, you know, it's really tough luck for Julius Dawkins that he gets injured, and he has a tough first quarter, especially when you get a guy like Russell Harrison, who was last year's league MVP, backing you up, back in the game, looking for his starting position back. For Julius Dawkins, it's not a very timely injury.
Things have worked out very well for Joe Herring, Russell Hairston, Mike Hohensee, and the Gladiators so far. 1st and 10. Moran with the reception inside the 10, and Corville wraps him up. And, folks, a penalty marker goes down, and this is what happens. Big people, small field, playing both ways. It's human emotion.
Hey, you get tired, you get a little testy, and Vince Corville, if memory serves correctly, he had a little problem last week throwing a ball at somebody. Jim Valek telling us he just can't have these kinds of things on his football team. So we'll see. Well, it is a zone infraction, as it turns out, but grabbing Moran around the neck wasn't exactly a good move either. All right, here we're looking at the New York defense. Now, keep your eye on number 21 in the white. As he just sort of stands there, is he playing a man? Is that the man to call on? All right.
That was Edwin Lovely.
Illegal zone defense. 1st down, 5 yards.
Now, we don't get the player number on that, but it looked to us as though it was Edwin Lovelady standing there in that linebacking position instead of moving out and picking up his man. You can't just wander around back there as a linebacker. You got to pick your man up.
1st and 10 from the 11-yard line. Hohensee, touchdown. One official on the goal line signaled touchdown, but they're going to call it at the 6-inch line as Russell Harrison was looking for his 4th touchdown reception. Let's take a look at it. Was it a TD or was it not?
Well, Harrison didn't complain too much about it. Hohensee, a nice shot. Again, with a guy like there, the knee is down this side of the end line of the goal line, and so the officials marking it on about the foot line. And Russell Harrison just continues to shine in his return to arena football. No question about it, he'll be sore tomorrow after playing his first game back since last season, but he'll be a happy young man, and even happier if Pittsburgh scores, which they do.
So Hohensee on the quarterback sneak. That's his 2nd rushing touchdown of the year. Just the 5th rushing touchdown for the Pittsburgh Gladiators. And in this seesaw game, they go back out on top. 39-36. And Fricky will come in to attempt the point after. Basically, folks, what happens there is sometimes the other offensive linemen, they don't even know which side the quarterback's going to go on. He'll just go up there, he'll look over the defense, he'll give a center a little pat on one side or the other, indicating which side he's going to go. And he misses the point after. I mean, he just missed it. And that's a big miss because it's a 3-point Pittsburgh lead at 39-36 with 9:19 left to go from the Civic Arena.
And now, a Bull Durham moment.
Honey, I want you to wear these when you're pitching on the road. They're garters.
The rose goes in the front, big guy.
Bull Durham, rated R. Starts Wednesday, June 15th.
There's only one Frigidaire.
I should have bought a Frigidaire.
Ask for it by name.
I'll take the Frigidaire. Now.
Frigidaire. Here today, here tomorrow.
And we're back in Pittsburgh. Roger Twibell, Steve Rabel here with you on a Friday night in Steel City. And hope your Memorial Day weekend's getting off to a great start. Pittsburgh with a 3-point lead after the quarterback sneak by Hohensee.
And you know what New York is hoping for right now? New York is hoping that they can get something to show up, to give them an opportunity to have a field position that Pittsburgh just had to start their drive. Because New York has had some problems and they've had to go the length of the field. And
well, it was a good break they got on the kick, hitting the wire, and that one gets caught up in the mesh. And what's Corville going to do? He's going to down it. That's just show you there, Fricky, that's a field goal, right? That's 58 yards right there. He drilled it right through the uprights, that 9-foot wide opening. But that net is soft in there. You don't get any bounce off that.
Right. So it just dropped straight down, and Corville grabbed it, took a look out there and said, I think we'll just hang on to it, down it right here, and start at our 5-yard line. So now New York has the length of the field to go. You saw the first down graphic, and New York has the fewest, coming into this game, the fewest first downs of any team in Arena football, 46. As Krochicki brings up, all the receivers are split to the near side in a running play. Why, you might ask, a running play by Derek Hughes? Well, maybe they wanted everybody to get their breath for just a moment. It's Jim Valley, the head coach of the New York Knights. Looks on. Clock is running, 8:35 left to go. Total yards tonight, New York 205, Pittsburgh 186. And New York giving up 192 a game, the lowest in Arena football. Out of the shotgun, Krochicki. Got Stan Hunter at the 18-yard line. That's more than enough for the first down. Mitchell was the second man in. Rock Richmond, the first in on the tackle. Keep in mind, folks, the clock will run continuously until the final minute when it stops for out-of-bounds and incomplete passes. There's the pass by Krochicki, and Silk. Stan Hunter makes the catch and then gets drilled by Mitchell. Who was the basketball player they used to call Silk out of UCLA?
Jamal Wilkes.
Jamal Wilkes. Thank you so much. I knew it. I had it right up there someplace. I just had it. It was filed away, and eventually it would have come to me.
We all go brain dead momentarily. Steve, you know that. Corville in motion. Krochicki finds Corville at the 25. You know, we're seeing more short stuff in New York here in this game. Even though they continue to go for the bomb, now they're working the clock a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, why throw that ball deep 3 times, maybe be forced to kick in a situation where, you know, you're only 3 points down. A field goal at least ties it for you. A drop kick, if you had a drop kicker, wins it for you if you can run 7 minutes off the clock. But you don't want to give Pittsburgh any more opportunities to hold on to the football than humanly possible. So try to pick up first downs in this situation. No, Valek's a good coach. He's been around a long time. You have to alter game plans from time to time.
Interesting to note, New York has outscored their opponents 49-12 in the fourth quarter. Krochicki, deep, incomplete. Pass was incomplete. The intended receiver was Bennett, and Rock Richmond was back defensively.
Krochicki recognizes Bennett. He's thrown to him before, specifically in the replacement games for the New York Giants last year. A 46-yard touchdown hookup by these two. That one just off the fingertips and just out of reach of Lewis Bennett. Just signed, just brought on board this New York team this week.
3rd down and 4, and when we're talking about the fourth quarter, interesting to note the Gladiators have been outscored 50-43. And there was a man we talked about at the top, Al Washington, who was in motion, pass intended for him. And I want to tell you, number 23, he doesn't have a name on his back right now, but I guarantee it's going to be on there before next week's game in Detroit. Russell Harrison is showing you why he is such a great arena football player. good defensive play right there.
You know, and I was impressed standing there talking to him as they were coming out to the second half. You know, here's a guy that you might expect to be out of breath, tired, beat up his first game back. He's just as nice and as easy going. I mean, he might as well be standing out on the street and just saying hi to a couple of folks.
Field goal attempt, 5:37 left to go. 40 yards by Cradaville. Just missed it by a foot. Just missed it by a foot. I mean, he's got excellent height. Line was pretty good, but he's made a couple, and Pittsburgh maintains that 3-point lead.
Yes, I'd like 2 of those pizzas.
Those pizzas? They'll be $17.99.
$17.99? But it says $10.99.
Not for those pizzas.
How can that be?
I think if you refer to the fine print.
Fine print?
He's not vendor responsible.
May I help you?
Who are you?
I'd like to introduce our corporate attorney. He's here on a regular basis.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
At Little Caesars, you always get 2 great pizzas for one low price.
Pizza.
Only at Little Caesars.
For college baseball's finest, the dream of a national championship heads toward home. The nation's best battle for a World Series berth at the NCAA Regional Finals. Monday night, live on ESPN.
And the wave, well, they started it. Very good. It's moving around the stadium here now. 5:24 left to go in the fourth. And we're told that Chicago leads Detroit 24-0 in the third. Chicago nearly shut out New York a couple of weeks ago. Just under 8,000 here tonight at the Civic Arena. We'll be back at Detroit on Thursday evening. This Pittsburgh team is on top by 3 right now, traveling back to the Motor City. ONC has it, 1st and 10 from the 5-yard line. Moran, the man in motion, and that's who they go to. Pass was low at his ankles and wasn't able to pick it up. How about the New York kicking game? First 4 games, 2 points. Tonight, 10.
You know, Paco Ragusa, who is the kicker for New York, has been injured since the beginning of the season, a pulled muscle in his leg. Jim Ballack wondering if he'd ever see his kicker back out there again. And tonight, Cradaville is doing a really great job for him.
Mitchell is the motion man. As Hohensee rolls out, comes back across the grain, and he finds Mitchell. I'll tell you what, Steve, folks don't realize how tough a move that is for a quarterback to go to his right and then throw that short pass back across to the left.
It is tough. You got to plant a lot of strength in that upper body and then to get it on the target. There you see Mitchell sliding to make that catch. Mitchell also the disaster quarterback for this Pittsburgh team and was forced into a disastrous situation last week when both Fulmer and Hohensee go down with injuries, and Mitchell was forced to play quarterback and hadn't taken a snap all year.
Captain of special teams at Cornell for Maxie Vaughn, right? Shepis was the motion man, and that pass deflected, and it's picked up by Ernest Adams, and Pittsburgh is getting all the home cooking right now. Boy, a good defensive play by the New York Knights, and once again, that old offense by accident. You'd rather be lucky than good sometimes.
Hey, whatever it takes. Ernest Adams in the right place at the right time. The ball knocked down. Take a look. In there on the play, Mark Grandy, big tall kid from Louisville, bats it up in the air, but there's Ernest Adams right on the spot, and of course he plays the tight end lineman spot, so he's used to catching the ball.
That's the first pass he's caught this year that hasn't accounted for points. He's had 2 touchdown catches, and then the 2-point conversion is that time. Gibson got in and nailed Hohensee, who was not able to find Mitchell. And third down and 4 situation now with less than 3 minutes to go. So now the clock is becoming a big factor as Pittsburgh has been able to eat some time up here. And a first down here would really put them in good position.
And New York just made some substitutions here with about 2:40 left to go in the game, and they brought in some fresh troops. They know they're going to get a chance to get this ball back, so they brought in guys who they feel like will help them offensively in this next series, but they've got to get out of this series first on defense.
Third down and 4. And whistles go down as Hohensee trips backpedaling. He's hurt himself. Well, there was some real confusion there. Hohensee now gets up. Flags are down, and we'll just wait for the call from Pearl Sorgan. They continue to talk about it. Well, they initially stepped it off against Pittsburgh. Now they're moving it the other way. Jim Ballack has something to say to Derek Hughes.
Encroachment by the linebacker. Dead ball. Still first down. Third down.
So there is another penalty, another mistake.
A bad habit. Walking one against them.
Jim Ballack doesn't get too excited on the sidelines. He saves that for his defensive coach, Rick Cuccinelli, but when Ballack is upset, he'll let the officials know.
Third down and 2. Shep is the motion man. Harrison makes the catch at the 5-yard line, and you can go out of bounds and come back in arena football. They say it's at the 6. They call it the 6, and we've seen that now a couple of times, Steve, on third down situations. Instead of just going for the first down, they're going to go deep for it.
Sure. Well, when you got a weapon like this guy, look, he was almost up against the wall for a minute, but he got back inbound. There's the 1 foot down. Actually, he had 2 feet in. Gets smacked into the wall. This, Hairston just comes out of nowhere like he never missed a beat in this game.
And using that height to a great advantage right there. So first and goal from the 6-yard line. 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go. Hohensee, great catch by Federico, and he's nailed out of bounds at the 5-yard line. Gain of about 1, and Pittsburgh will now let the clock run down to the 1-minute mark. And, of course, we'll be picking our Iron Man of the game, our Little Caesars Iron Man of the game, and we've got somebody in mind, I think. So, 1 minute left to go, and Pittsburgh leads New York 39-36.
You know what really burns me up? My feet. Athlete's foot kept flaring up. I get rid of it for a while, but it just flared up again. Finally, I went to the doctor. He told me to get Tinactin. It's what doctors and pharmacists recommend most. Tinactin even cures recurring athlete's foot. Use it regularly like they tell you, and it'll keep the fire from coming back.
Fast-acting Tinactin puts athlete's foot out for good.
Knockout night. 3 World Championship bouts in one evening. First, the WBC Super Lightweight title fight is a meeting of champions, Roger Mayweather and Harold Frazier. Then, Olympic medalist Virgil Hill defends his WBA light heavyweight crown against Ramsey Hassan. In the main event, Thomas Hearns battles to keep his WBC middleweight championship from Iran Barkley. Knockout night, a pay-per-view event. Monday, June 6th. Call your cable operator and order today.
Roger Twybo, Steve Rabel back with you in Pittsburgh. Hope you've enjoyed this arena football game. It's been fun. 39-36. Pittsburgh leads it by 3. 1 minute left to go. They've got the ball at the New York 5-yard line. Second and goal. And, of course, the clock will now stop on incomplete passes and out of bounds. So a touchdown here by the Gladiators will just about seal this thing. As Mike Hohensee, who looks like he's going to go another game without an interception, has Moran in motion. And, gee, just when I say that, you know what almost happens?
Well, New York had a couple of opportunities early, too, and dropped what could have been an interception for the night team.
Steve, this, as we take a look at the time of play, the 15 minutes, except for the penalties, injuries, and clock, this is the toughest part of the field to score from. You'd really rather be back about the 15-yard line than on the 5.
No question about it, because now your defense has an extra player in the end zone line, the back line of the end zone, plus they have a couple of extra players in the short sideline, the short width of the field. So it's very, very difficult in this narrow area. That's why sometimes you just try to isolate one guy out there, split him out as far as you can, just give him a chance, as Russell Hairston is split out now.
Third down and 5. Well, there's the penalty marker, and there's the play that you were waiting for. And Harrison goes down in the end zone. as he was nailed against the boards, and he is in a lot of pain right there. And the Pittsburgh trainer, Bill and Jimmy, will come out right now and take a look at him. Let's see if we can pick up what's going on.
Okay, which one? Left. Okay. Left ankle. What did it twist in? Go in? Twist in, yeah. Did you feel anything? It hurt. Pop? Snap? No, none of that. It just hurt. Okay, have you injured that ankle before? Never. Okay. Okay. What happened, Russell? Did your knee bend in the wall, or was it your knee twisted? Ankle. Hey, put out straight. Anything up here, Russell? Yes? Okay.
Dr. Chip Burke is the team doctor
How about
for
right
the
here?
Pittsburgh Gladiators.
Just relax. Let me check you out. How about right here? Anything here?
Tough to relax as a player out there when you're injured and you're really hurting, but this is what the trainer has to do. He's got to try to find out what the injury is.
How about right down here? Anything? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Tail up fit. Posterior? Tail up fit. How about right here? That's posterior. Anything on this side? Yeah. Right here.
Magic has 1,000 different uses around the house, but don't tell your wife or it'll disappear. Like magic.
Clear magic.
Pittsburgh a 3-point lead. Russell Hairston with 3 touchdown catches. Now up on his feet and leaving the end zone.
When you're on your heel, do you have anything? Nothing going up the leg? No. Okay. Okay.
Bill and Jimmy, also the trainer at West Liberty College.
When you up against the wall? I don't know what it was. I think so. Okay.
Always checking with the player.
Trying to go too fast. Okay. I go that fast. I got to go. All right, just take your time.
So as Russell Hairston leaves the field now, we're told there was a penalty marker down, but we're not showing a penalty being assessed against New York. It's 4th down and 5. And Hohensee will go for it. 4th and goal from the 5. Shepis in motion. Federico on the quick pitch. Touchdown! Federico's 3rd rushing touchdown of the year. And there is one of the two-way players of arena football, one of the Iron Men, if you will, and he's hurting as he comes off the field.
Well, I think after a game like this, a lot of these guys are going to be hurt and banged up, bumps and bruises. Federico on the pitch. Great block out in front. Ernest Adams leading the way. Look at that. He got 2 all the way to the end zone.
He got the initial one at the line of scrimmage, and he got the one downfield.
And Federico, knowing where that end zone is, makes the dive across. There was no way he was going to get pushed out of bounds.
45-36 with Fricky on to attempt the point after. 48 seconds left to go. But remember, New York's got all their timeouts. That is good. So now that makes it a 10-point ball game. Pittsburgh leads it. To the Civic Arena right after this.
What's the best brokerage account for an active investor? Ask a Schwab customer.
With my Schwab One asset management account, my money's never idle. When I sell a stock or I get a dividend, my cash instantly starts earning income. And it keeps on earning until I make my next investment.
When I need to get to my cash or take out a loan, I just use my Schwab Visa or write a check. Schwab One makes it easy.
All my financial moves are right here. And one simple statement. Now, you might expect to pay a lot of money for an account this handy, and not with Schwab One. There's no monthly fee. Now, that's real value.
To get your free booklets and an application for the Schwab One Asset Management account, call toll-free 800-848-8900. That's 800-848-8900. Call now for your free Schwab One booklet.
48 seconds left to go. Fricky to kick it off from his goal line. Still a lot of time for the New York Knights. All their timeouts remaining. Clock will stop on out-of-bounds, incomplete passes. Corville takes it right on the goal line. Corville had a seam. And Fricky once again with a tackle at the 25-yard line. Out of bounds, 42 seconds left to go. At Chicago, the Bruisers lead the drive 30-14 in the third.
Boy, Vince Corbell, the speedster out of Rice and former USFLer, takes this thing and almost breaks it. And again, for Fricky, luckily, the narrow field gives him a defender on that side, and he can just run Corbell into the wall. But not before Corbell gets New York out to midfield and puts them in position. If they can score quickly and get the ball back, you know, who knows in this game, as we've talked about before, so unpredictable.
And they send all of the receivers to the far side. Now Hunter comes in motion to the near side. And to Hunter. Out of bounds, stops the clock. That used 5 seconds. So New York, with all of their timeouts remaining, looking to punch one across here.
And, you know, again, a team like Pittsburgh that's so defensive-oriented, in a situation like this, you're thinking 3 men. I can't let them into the end zone. But what you end up giving up is that underneath route of about 8 or 9 yards. And so eventually, in a couple of plays, this New York team is going to get there.
And also, this is where you want to operate from. Sure. A 13-yard line. There's Russell Hairston saying hi to Mom, so he looks like he's okay. But that was probably designed to get him into this area really no deeper, because now they've got the space to utilize. Lovelady in motion. Prochicchia, he's got Bennett. Now they're inside the 5 to the 4, and this is where the New York Knights have had problems.
Boy, they really have. A couple of weeks ago, they had 5 or 6 plays inside the 5 and couldn't score. We also have a flag down on the ground. We'll check that in a second. Let's check out Prochicchia as he fires this one on a line to Lewis Bennett.
It's from above. The zone official making the call. Whenever you see the man with the black hat come out into the field, that means that the zone official upstairs has spotted something defensively that is wrong.
The word that we get from upstairs is 44 in the green jersey, just to the right center of your screen, in the linebacker spot, should not be blitzing on the play, yet here he comes. So there the penalty call against Mike Powell, linebacker out of Weber State.
So now what they do is they bring the ball down to the 8.
Illegal blitz by number 44. Automatic first down. First and goal.
So the play is nullified, and the penalty is accepted. Now, why do they accept it? Because they want more room to work with.
Exactly.
33 seconds left. Hughes is the lone up back. He's got it, and he's drilled out of bounds at the 5-yard line with 28 seconds left to go.
Powell almost took a seat. Check that. Hughes almost took a seat up in the stands. Almost going over. Here's a little flip pass by Prochicchia, trying to protect himself up against the wall. Almost goes over the top. Derek Hughes, big fullback out of Michigan State.
Second and goal from the 5. They don't want to waste too much more time with the shotgun. To Bennett. And no. Out of the end zone. Moran was the man defending. So now 24 seconds remain. Pittsburgh leads it by 10, 46-36.
Check out Lewis Bennett. Let's see if there's a face masking penalty there. The hands go up. Now, the rule is the hand is not directly in front of the face. And that was the call. The official said the hand was not in front of the face waving.
The hand can be in front of the face. It can't be waving. So, third down and goal from the 5. And the stop. And Prochicchia calls the timeout, and Fabre Collins.
Pittsburgh has already lost one of their better defensive players, Federico, to a bad ankle, and now Somebody has to pick up the slack, and there is Faberé Collins. Krachicki never had a chance, never saw him coming.
Let's go, guys! What's that cat?
Clear out to one side, either an extra or one post. Run the line on out. Clear it out.
Go right, wide opposite, wide break. How about a crosser?
I think a cross is good right here.
Tell Louis to get wide. Louis wasn't wide enough on that. I want a wide crosser with the X over the top, so they don't get standing.
Okay. Steve, you've been on huddles before. Sometimes I think the backup quarterbacks run the show in pro football.
They are in the best position to know what's going on. A, because they've been on the field, they have the experience to know what's going to work in this situation. They know what the starting quarterback is thinking. They know what he's seeing out there. And they know what the coaches on the sideline want because the coaches have been calling the plays for the most part all evening. Well, again, look for the wide receiver to line up even wider and look for the crossing route.
This is it, 4th down and goal from the 13-yard line. The positive thing is they've got some more room to operate here. The negative thing is they've only got 19 seconds left. They're down by 10. Boy, Walls is there. And that's going to do it. Walls was the man, number 54. He came into this game with 8 sacks to his credit. Pittsburgh as a team had 18, and he showed you, well, just a little bit of everything tonight.
Keep your eyes on Craig Walls right here, the top of your screen in the green jersey, number 54. As he comes around, Quentin Knight, hand out, grabs the ball right there, knocks it out of Krachicki's hand. And Jim never had a chance. Once again, the ball bouncing around, but it doesn't matter that Jones picks it up. There's no way he's going to pick up the necessary yardage for the first down, and Pittsburgh takes over on that fourth down.
11 seconds left to go. And Pittsburgh with a 10-point lead. And Craig Walls, of course, would be a big candidate for Iron Man, but we've got another guy in mind that we'll let you know in just a few moments. But he's had an outstanding game, and I'm sure before this year is over, will be Iron Man on many occasions. As Hohenstein will bring it back, and they didn't protect their quarterback too well there, Steve.
No, I think everybody decided to rest on the line. Hohenstein didn't get down in time, and he was taken to the ground.
So after a loss last week at Los Angeles, a heck of a game as the Pittsburgh Gladiators turn it on late, and they outscore New York 25-10 in the second half. And they pick up a 46-36 victory over the New York Knights. But even in losing, I think there were a lot more positive things for the New York Knights than they've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
No question about it. Look